you about, please define the circulatory disturbance. What does mean? What does mean by the abnormality in the circulatory system? Yes, Wafa.
Abnormality the heart and system and blood.
Yes. So when we talk about the circulatory disturbance, it means we have a damage or the abnormality in the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood volume. Take a look. I said what? The blood volume. So when we have an increasing or the decreasing the blood volume is a problem. When we have a disease, ischemia in the heart is also the problem. And also whenever you have a stenosis, obstruction, the damage in the blood vessel also is what is a problem. Now, for today, we have a few sections about the hyperemia edema, congestion edema, and what about the liver congestion, and also the few slides for the hemorrhage. So let's to check the slide what we have. First of all, you should recognize the section. Okay. Each structure or each organ, it has a functional unit. What does mean by the functional unit? It means the main unit for that organ, which are composed. Okay. What about this section? It's taken from the which organ? Let's to move throughout the section. Don't be hurry. If it is a kidney, where is the nephron? What about this space? If it is a spleen, it may be what? Where is the white pulp? So, if it is a liver, where is the central vein? Where is the sinusoidal capillary? This is what? The lung. We have the alveoli. These are the alveoli, alveolar sac. But actually, when you look, this is remain normal. Take a look. Make a comparison between the upper section and the lower one. In the upper section, what we have? The alveolar lumen are still empty. Why? Because it's a normal which is contain air. But what about the lower section? What we have? Take a look. We have a thickening in the alveolar hole, which is called by what? Interlobular septa. So, first of all, thickening, increasing the size of the alveolar septa due to the thickening. Take a look for the lumen. Here is empty. What about here? The alveolar lumen will be replaced by what? Dark pinkish coloration. So let's to see in the high magnification. While we have a thickening or the enlargement in where? In the alveolar septa. Take a look. Usually, when we have a thickness in the alveolar septa, it means what? It means either we have an edema, interstitial fluid, or we have an engorgement. Enlargement due to what? Maybe due to the arterial obstruction or venous obstruction. So, take care from the section, what we have. First of all, the alveolar hole are thickened because we have accumulation of the blood. Okay. What about here, the alveolar lumen? It's contained dark pinkish color, but what about this cell, which is found in the alveolar septa or interstitial space? What about this basophilic cell? Okay. So all this is a macrophage. This is a macrophage, and this one is a macrophage. This is also the macrophage. So we have an infiltration. Be careful. In case of the inflammation, we cannot say the accumulation of the cell. No. We have an infiltration. Infiltration of what? Infiltration of what? Of the inflammatory cell. So this thickening is due to what? Due to the infiltration of the inflammatory cell plus accumulation of what? The engorged RBC, red blood corpuscle. Now, what about this protein or this fluid? This fluid which is found in the alveolar lumen is transudate or exudate. According to what? The presence and the absence of the inflammatory cell, all of these basophilic, and according to the color of the fluid. Take a look. Also the same. According to the color and the inflammatory cell. So what we have, Transudate or exudate? Exudate. What about your diagnosis? If you have a thickening in the alveolar septa, and also what we have, accumulation of the dark pinkish بزحمة بلابرزي أو سحبير بتشنو دو بلاك الربيع بتشنو فربان نبيل. Now, and we have what? Infiltration of the inflammatory cell. What about your diagnosis? Does it is a pulmonary hyperemia and edema, or it is a pulmonary congestion and edema, and why? Take a look. Throughout the section, we have the same problem. We have the same problem. So this section is pulmonary hyperemia edema or pulmonary congestion edema, and why? What about your diagnosis? We have an inflammatory cell. We have a thickening in the alveolar septa. We have a accumulation of the dark pinkish protein. Excellent. Pulmonary hyperemia and edema. Why hyperemia? Because this engorgement of the alveolar capillary due to the obstruction of the artery. Why? Because we have an inflammatory cell. Okay. Why it is an edema? Simply we have accumulation of what? Dark, pinkish, proteinaceous fluid. This fluid is what? Is an edema. Qatalem, pulmonary hyperemia and edema. What about the causes? Why we have a pulmonary hyperemia and edema? What about the causes? بقول شو أو how طبعا هنا. Yes? Due to what?
We have the inflammation.
We have a left-sided heart failure. The main problem for the edema, hyperemia congestion is what? Heart failure. Bir tane diagram kakırman. The blood will be returning to the lung and is linked to what? Sometimes we have a congestion, the other will be what? Hyperemia. So the section is a pulmonary hyperemia and edema. First of all, you should recognize the section. Take a look. This section is taken from the which organ and also why? So why it is a lung? Yes. Because we have what? The bronchi. This is a bronchi. Here is what? Respiratory bronchiole, which is open to what? Alveolar duct and the alveoli. So this section is taken from the lung. What happened? Even in the low power, I can recognize this section. Why? Usually the alveolar septa, the whole of the alveoli should be what? Should be delicate layer. Zor şeffaf be. Why? Because their function are for exchanging what? The oxygen and the what? The CO2. But here what we have? We have a thickening, the enlargement. As turbuni chi divarakan. So let's to see. This thickening is due to what? Why we have a thickening in the whole of the alveoli? Take a look. All of this thickening is due to what? We have the accumulation of what? The free RBC. So we have what? Enlargement in the alveolar capillary. When I have an enlargement of the alveolar capillary, what happened? Sometime may be associated with what? Inflammatory cell. The other time, no. Let's to see the one important structure. Take a look for this one. What about the structure? We have a large cell which has a golden brown color are found in the alveolar lumen. Silicon. This is a thickening of the alveoli due to what? Founding of congested RBC. In the lumen, what we have? We have a golden brown color which is engulfed by the special type of the macrophage, the alveolar macrophage, found in the alveolar lumen. This structure is called by what? And it is a main indicator for which lesion? Yes? Excellent. This cell is called by the heart failure cell. Do you remember heart failure cell? Twanchia. It is an alveolar macrophage that engulf what? Engulf the hemostreme. Bo. Silicon. Lere ka diwara kan zor astura be nachar chiye be. We have a rupture. The rupture of the alveolar capillary, all of the blood will be found where? In the alveolar lumen. The blood hemoglobin is contained what? Iron, derived pigment, which is a hemostrine. And this hemostrine will be engulfed by what? Alveolar macrophage. Do you remember the name of the alveolar macrophage? The name of the lung macrophage is what? Dust cell. The dust cell. So these are the cell which is engulfed the hemostrine. What about your diagnosis? This heart failure cell, it is a special indicator for what? For the lung hyperemia and the edema. Take a look for this one. It's so brilliant. Take a look. We have a golden brown color. Golden brown color. These are what? Heart failure cells. This is what? It is a pulmonary congestion and edema, or it is a pulmonary hyperemia and edema. And why? So why it is a congestion?
Inflammatory cell.
Excellent one. Because we don't have we don't have an inflammatory cell. لحم يقدر تفشي. We have a heart failure cell. Golden brown coloration in the alveolar lumen. Got a section كمان شيء pulmonary congestion and edema. First of all, let's recognize the section. This section is taken from the which organ? Please pay attention. What we have here. This organ is look like what? Where is the white pulp? This one? Actually, this is an inflammatory cell plus the fibrosis deposition. Take a look in the low power. Chebinin lera telebakan. Dark color, pale color. Dark color, pale color. This dark and the pale combination is indicator for which circulatory abnormality? Which one? Let's check. Nutmeg liver. Pale جوز الطيب شتوي. تقريبا كوجسون تبع. Now check caldo. This section is taken from the liver. This section is taken from what? From the liver. When you look for the liver, we have what? We have a pale dark, pale dark. All of the dark coloration is indicated for the congestion. Either the congestion in the sinusoid or the congestion in what? In the central vein. All of the pale coloration between what? Normal, intact hepatocyte or oxygenated one. So let's just see in the high power. What about the congestion in the central vein and also the hepatocyte? Okay, it's good. Now, this is what? The central vein. What happened to the central vein? Actually, the central vein is secret, as turbo, because we have a large number of the RBC, stasis RBC. The central vein are congested with the RBC. What about this space? These are the hepatocytes. Between the adjacent hepatocyte, what we have? We have a sinusoidal capillary. So, if you look for the sinusoidal capillary, also contain what? Contain the large amount of the RBC, pathology. We have a congestion in the central vein and the congestion in what? In the sinusoidal capillary. This is also taken. We have a congestion in the vein, congestion in the sinusoidal capillary. You asked about this. Let's to see in the high power. What about this structure or abnormality? Oh. Now, this is also the central vein. We have a congestion. The most important, take a look for the sinusoid. These are the sinusoid. What happened? There is a large amount of the RBC, congested sinusoid. Okay. Do you remember central lobular hepatocyte? Central lobular hepatocyte, they are the hepatocytes which are found around the central vein. It's called by the central lobular hepatocyte. What about this hepatocyte? What we have? Take a look. These are the hepatocyte which is found near the central vein. The most important lesion, the most important abnormality which is found in the hepatocyte is what? Take a look for the hepatocyte and tell me, this is a reversible cellular swelling or irreversible? What happened to the hepatocyte? Silicon. I am hepatocyte and normal, but I am sectional. What happened to the hepatocyte, especially around the central vein? Which is what? Which is supplied by the low amount of the oxygen and the blood. Both. Because the central vein is congested. It means we have obstruction. اگر شوينك جلابي I bloody زور بوچه كم بيضمن كم. We have a low of the blood, so we have ischemia. Usually the ischemia, it is a main cause for what? Coagulative necrosis. Take a look for the necrosis what we have.
As Dr. Amelie Vernier.
Yes. The coagulative necrosis usually found in the firm organ, like spleen, kidney, heart, and liver. So, what about this one? Take a look. This is a normal nucleus, but what about this one and that one? The nucleus is what? It's condensed, small, round. Condensed, small, round. This is what? This is a pycnotic change. So all of the hepatocytes which are found near the central vein is undergo what? Necrosis. Catalan, we have a centrilobular necrosis. Chain lesion اسم. Congestion in the central vein. Hepatocyte is undergoing necrosis and congestion in the sinusoid. But we have the other one. Take a look. These are what? Also the hepatocyte. But this hepatocyte is infiltrated with what? With large number of the basophilic cell. Be careful. All of these basophilic cell is what? Is an inflammation, inflammatory cell. What about this bluish coloration, which is found between the inflammatory cell? These are the deposition of the collagen fiber, which is called by what? Fibrosis. What does it mean by the fibrosis? It means we have accumulation or the deposition of the collagen fiber, or it is called by fibrosis. Fibrillation. So, take a look in this section what we have. We have the infiltration of the inflammatory cell, the deposition of the collagen fiber. Take a look. Necrosis of the cell. What about your diagnosis? We have a nutmeg liver. The nutmeg liver, it means right-sided heart failure. What about the name for this abnormality in the circulatory system? It's called by what? Chronic venous congestion in the liver. Chronic venous congestion. Take a look. Why I say the chronic? Inshallah, the inflammation. Because we have a macrophage, which is a chronic inflammatory cell, and the deposition of the collagen fiber, causing chronic venous congestion in the liver. Why it is called by the venous congestion? Why it is a venous? Because the central vein is a vein. The sinusoidal capillary is a part of the vein, causing chronic venous congestion. لجروبكي الطلبة كرساري كيف وجوانك. والله غير كذا كرساري نكت. يسرا مش تقولي.
نكروسك بهوي congestion وروها خويا ليجنك يجي علينا.
نكروسك راسه بهوي congestion بو. لبروي يكيد لبروبلمي نكروسس شيء ischemia. كليرة خوي congested به. أينا ببلاد supply hepatocyte كان يزيد كويكا. هيج بلادي بوناتشي كاتة شيء is under borders. تلبي برسالة كتير دكتورة تو إيه مدوافر كدو كالين congestion يعني inflammatory cellular. بس بو ليه رالي inflammation.
هي نكروستكانيا.
بوشي ليه رالي inflammation. This congestion and the hyperemia, this is usually found in the pulmonary. بلام ليه شو من هي liver. حالتك إيرش inflammation ها نسيم chronic. قاعدة حالتك inflammation. نك بهوي hydrostatic pressure يعني oncotic pressure روبه. So be careful.
أو inflammation بوش نبغي بس central vein كي تجبر بوي أواني تجبر.
لدروي central vein كي لبرو ما كمان chronic hepatitis بلام إيميلي رينالي. Chronic hepatitis تنهال إلى circulatory system بس كنا chronic venous congestion. Chronic venous congestion. تايستواس حتى لو كان ماشي. This section what we have. Please pay attention please. طبعا أنا سلايدك شكاوي تبقى قدرتي قادرة بأو دولة بيجوليني. Now, what about this organ? The finger-like projection. Yes. This section is taken from the small intestine. Take a look, please. This is alveoli, okay? What about here? We have accumulation of the free RBC. We found the free RBC in the lumen of what? Of the intestine. يعني شيء. The RBC does not found inside the blood vessel. It's outside the blood vessel. Whenever you found the free RBC, which is an extravasated RBC, this situation is called by what? Hemorrhage. Here, the hemorrhage in the intestine. Sometimes you may hear about the shooting diarrhea in the cattle, which is caused by the virus. The virus causes. We have a shooting diarrhea. Diarrhea we have a hemorrhage in the intestine, building hemorrhagic enteritis. The hemorrhage in the intestine. بس كتشوينا فصلي inflammation hemorrhagic enteritis. But today just only we have what? The hemorrhage, the free RBC, which is found in the lumen of the intestine. So these are the simple section for the today. We have hemorrhage, especially found in the intestine. اینجا استباب زنین که حتما که نه حتما. بزن من اینجا پنجاب نیم بهینه کام اومد نوع بیزتن